Moving right along on our tools panel is the shapes tool. Okay, now the shape tool is absolutely essential for you to understand and know how it works because we use it for a ton of different things. Okay, so, sorry, did I just blow your ears out? Sorry about that. Okay, so here we go. If you click on this guy, you're going to see a bunch of different options. Okay, rectangle tool, rounded rectangle tool, ellipse tool, polygon tool, line tool, and the shapes custom shape tool. Okay, I'm going to click on the custom shape tool so you understand what that is. Every time you touch something on the tools panel, you're going to get a bunch of options on this bar right here, and there's more things than we can ever talk about, but one of the key things with the custom shapes is this guy right here. Photoshop gives you a ton of really cool shapes that you can use, and you know, you can also go online and find custom shapes. There are millions of different shapes out there you can use. You know, say for example you just want to use a talking bubble, blarch, there you go, right there. If you want to find whatever you want, a checkbox, boom, there it is. If you want a I don't even know, a magnifying glass, I use that all the time for search search fields on websites. Boom, there you go. Now you're going to notice something about these guys. They all have anchor points all over them. See all these dots? That means what? That you can edit it. It's a vector graphic. Okay, so let's go over here and grab this anchor point and see what happens. Oh yeah, you can edit that. Now why did that happen? Can you do raster graphics as shapes? Of course you can. So let's start over. Let's get rid of these guys. And I'm going to talk about another subject now that we've gone through that. I want to talk about how the two ways that you're going to create a shape. One is going to be vector, boom, and one is going to be raster, boom. And they both work for two different things. Now I'll just delete these so you can see what I do, okay, just to create these. I'm just going to go here and I'll do a circle, okay, another circle. I know you're tired of circles, but you know, what do you want? Up here is very important for how you make your shape. You can either make a shape that's a shape or you might as well call shape vector, okay? Shape means that you're going to create a vector, and here is the color information. Basically this is taken from Adobe Illustrator. It works just like Illustrator, okay? So I'm going to create a shape. I'm going to draw that in. And now we've got a circle with this little box in the corner, and that means it's a vector. It means that it's created by geometry, as we learned before. So you can take that and you can edit that. You can start making it into, don't show again, I don't want to see that. Okay. You can start editing that shape into whatever you want it to. Or you can take that circle, do the same circle, but this time draw it as pixels. Okay, and if you do it as pixels, you actually have to create your layer, an empty layer, and draw it into that. And this is created by pixels, okay? If you make it small and then you make it big again, it's going to look terrible because that's a raster image, a rasta image, as we call it. And if you make this really, really big, it's going to start looking ugly. Whereas if you can change the size on this, you know, talking about non-destructive, you can do vectors as big or as small or do whatever you want to with them, and they will always maintain their shape. They'll always be perfectly crisp because they're not made by dots, okay? Now before I talk about vector shapes, which is going to be a larger topic, I want to talk for a second about why would you ever want to create a raster shape. And the only real reason that I ever use shapes in rasters is if I'm going to use shapes in the alpha channel. So let me click on my alpha channel here, and we can see we got our black and our white again, and I'm going to create an alpha circle that crosses here. So now we can see on this alpha channel, looks kind of like a little Pac-Man. So I'm drawing on here. What if I go up here and click shape and I try to draw into the alpha channel? Well, it just creates a shape. I can't draw in there. So if you want to draw a shape that's going to work on an alpha channel, it needs to be raster, okay? There's another option over here that I'm not going to go into yet because it's a little more advanced, okay? And that's a way to use vectors, but don't worry about it. It doesn't matter, okay? Now, I want to end this talking about vector shapes. Vector shapes are extremely powerful, and I want to show you just one of the really quick things you can do with them in order to manipulate them. Usually when you're working with vector shapes, The secret of a lot of logo designers is you're tracing things and you're creating shapes out of multiple shapes, okay? So let's say, for example, I want to create some sort of weird logo out of here, and I want to take out part of this image and I want to make it transparent. Now, one way to do it is, of course, to put an alpha channel and just to start drawing on it, and that'll make it disappear. But that is not going to create a shape that is a vector shape, okay? The better way to do that is to take this shape and to start creating another shape on top of it that either adds to it or takes away from it. And let me explain what I'm talking about. Let's say I want to have a circle inside of this that's transparent as part of a logo. I don't know why, but just for whatever reason. Now, when I put, you see the little cross that I've got in the middle. If I click Alt, a little negative subtraction arrow thing is going to appear. Now, whatever I draw with the circle is going to subtract. Look at my layer here. Everything that I'm drawing with the negative vector shape is subtracting from that, okay? And they're still editable. If I want to move those little circles, I can grab them and I can edit them. Or if I want to grab the whole shape, I can go over here, click the black shape tool, and I can move it around. Isn't that cool? Now, this has a billion different uses, and we'll get more into that maybe with one of the advanced classes. But this is absolutely key. Another thing you can do is, if I want to just delete these, I can delete these. And if I'm going to see if you guys are following this, if this is too hard, or if you're following it, and I'll create some more tutorials to explain this a little bit better if it's not clear. Okay, just let me know in the comments. You can also add to the image if you want to. And you can add anything. You can go, let's go down to the custom shapes. And if you want to add I don't know, let's go crazy. Let's put a car, okay? If you want to add a car. So now I'm going to click Shift and I'm going to add a car. And now those two items come together here, but they're still editable, okay? So if I want to, I can just go in, grab that car and move it around. And they're part of the same shape, okay? You can click a button over here and make them combine all of a sudden. Or you can just move the whole thing around if this is like moving the layer, okay? Or you can take that same car and click Alt and subtract it from the thing. See? There we go. I think my computer just had a heart attack. And then you can go back over here again and click that. And this is super powerful. This is actually fairly new in Photoshop, and this is advanced stuff, but I wanted to show you because it's not brain surgery, whatever, nuclear science. It's actually fairly easy to understand. And so that you understand that this is actually transparent, I'm going to draw something underneath it so you can see. Let's just put a yellow layer underneath so you can see. This is transparent, okay? Let's move this around. This is all transparent. It's not just drawing white on top of it. All right, I'm going to stop there because I've said too much already. Okay, now here's a very quick introduction to brushes. Brushes are very, very powerful, but I'm only just going to brush the surface. Oh, man. I've still got it. Okay, so here we go. Right here is a very important little box, right? Okay, and this shows us the properties of our brush. Okay, now we can change the hardness or the softness. So here is, and the size of the brush, obviously. So let's make a medium-sized brush, and I'm going to set the hardness to 0. There you go. Now let's go up and change the hardness to 100. And so you kind of get an idea of what that does. What you might not know is that there's this palette right here, the brush panel, and that gives you an incredible amount of, well, as you can see, it gives you an incredible amount of options when it comes to your brushes. And you can start seeing here all these different brushes, all the different kinds of brushes that you can choose from. And these are, really great for creating using Photoshop as like a canvas. If you want to paint, if you've got a Wacom tablet and you're actually painting, and a lot of people do that. That's not something that I do, so I can't really talk about that. And that's a little bit complicated for this class. Okay, look at that. Isn't that cool? So there's all kinds of shapes here that you can choose from. And this is kind of vaguely related to, look at that, that's cool, isn't that nice, a leaf? This is all vaguely related to the shapes as well. So I want to just go through some of the dynamics that you can use here. Now let's pick something a little more, and you can import stuff here. You can find shapes all over the internet, and you can import them in. Okay, let's say I've got leaves here, and I want to create leaves on a picture, what I can do is I can take these leaves and I can start changing the dynamics on it. So look right here. This is going to show you what the dynamics are and how they're going to render when I use the brush tool. Okay. First of all, the spacing, the amount of space between each one. I'm going to make that a lot bigger. I'm going to make the actual leaves themselves bigger. Now I'm going to go to scattering, and I'm going to change that. Let's see what we've got so far. Let me make a scattering. See, that just scatters them all over the place, but they're still all exactly the same. So what if we want to change them and make them look like they're kind of following? Let's do size jitter. What does that do? Let me go Control Z, size jitter. Okay, that makes the sizes different. Now let's do minimum diameter jitter. Okay, that doesn't really do a whole lot. Let's do angle jitter. Whoa, okay, now that's getting cool. Angle jitter is making them go in all different directions. Now let's try roundness jitter. What does that do? Okay, now we're rotating the leaves so they look like they're going on in different directions. Now I'm not going to go any further with this because there's a ton of different things you can do here, and this is very advanced stuff. We can go into this with the more advanced classes, but I just want you to understand the power of the brush tool and what the basics are. Okay, because the brush tool, I use it a lot. Okay, so that's it for the brushes tool, and we will start with the type tool next. Our next topic is going to be the type tool. The type tool is actually pretty self-explanatory. When you click on it, you will have some options up here, but what I like to do is have the palette. Okay, the palette right here shows you tons of different options for the type tool. Now there's a couple of things that I want to talk about, and what I use primarily in Photoshop are types that I have downloaded from different foundries. There's a lot of great lists online of free fonts, and I try to use fonts that aren't necessarily the most obvious ones, like Arial and Helvetica and Times New Roman. And the best advice I can give you is never ever use Comic Sans for anything, or don't use Papyrus or any of these cheesy fonts. Go out and learn just a little bit about fonts, and you just copy other people who say this is a nice font. You say, okay, well, you like it, then okay, that's horrible advice. Sorry. Okay, so what I'm going to do is there's two ways to, at this very basic level, there's two ways that you can put start writing. One is just to click, and now you've got this little cursor, and you can start writing. Yabba dabba do. Okay. The other way, I'm going to click and get off that, is to create a box, and this is actually the way I like to do things. So I'm going to say, I love to create text boxes. And the nice thing about that is when you're working in a space, you can just kind of like move this around to work with that space, and also you can justify it to the left, to the center, to the right. It just gives you more flexibility. So with this guy, you can just like, I don't know, you can just move it over here, move it over there, but there's no real there's not a lot of flexibility with that. So let's get rid of that. Right now I actually have this on all caps, so let me select this again. In order to select your text, you just need to go back to the text tool and click on it, okay, like that. Now I've got this in all caps, so right here this is all caps, so let me click on that, and this will actually give me everything in capital and lowercase. Okay, so you can go here and you can make everything bigger. I like to modify text from here instead of transforming it. And the reason is when you're doing this, you get solid numbers. And a lot of people want you to have whole numbers when you're working with fonts. It's just kind of a best practice, okay? So try to modify it from here, okay? Don't go in and click and go Control T and then move it around, because then you get all kinds of, issues. Let's click on that. Now you've got like 129.77, blah, blah, blah. It's just ugliness, just total ugliness. Okay, so I'm not really going to do a whole lot with text. Let me hit Alt, Shift, and drag. And you can do this with any layer. I didn't talk about that early, but if you just hit Shift and Control and drag, you'll create new layers, okay? And then you can go over here. You can either choose what font you want over here, and I've got tons and tons of fonts. Or you can do it up here. When you click on it, double click up here. Okay, now another quick lesson. This is very simple. If you're creating a website or a document where you need to just add a bunch of dummy text, you are going to want to use lorem ipsum text, okay? So I've copied that from a website called lorem, LOREM2.com, and now I'm going to, the standard size for a font in web design is 16 pixels, okay? 16, where am I at? Okay, 16, here you go. 18, I'm going to move that, 18, 17, 16, and I'm going to put this at Open Sans. Okay, and I'm going to click Control C, Control V. Okay, what just happened? That looks terrible. Now I can either click on this and try to change everything, or I can be on this level, this layer, and I can click the T but not select that and start changing it, and it's going to change everything that's in that paragraph, okay? This is all just dummy text that I took from that site. Now, one quick way to get everything kind of in shape is just to hit auto, okay? So auto this, put that at 0. You can put this at, I usually like to put optical. And one of the reasons why this is so small is because we're zoomed out a little bit. If I zoom this into the actual size of the document, then this will look a little more normal. Now this font is way too bold for what we're trying to do, so I'm just going to put regular. And there we go, just a nice clean font. Now one of the things that I do, let's say for example I've got a box that this is in. Let's take a black box, put that at the bottom, and I'm going to bring down the opacity just so we can see. Okay, there we go. Now if I want to make this text look nice inside of, say, a box, say you're doing web design, I'll put the actual box, the bounding box of the text all the way to the sides. I'll select it all, and then I'll go to paragraph, and right here you can see that you're going to justify, you're going to push in the text a little bit from both sides. So let's try 10. Okay, that's a little too little. Okay, and now that pushes everything that way, and this is going to push everything from that side. 20. Okay, I can even do, I'd love to do, even more. I love a lot of justification. Is that what it is? I like to justify. And so that looks really nice, and it all matches the box because you've got the spaces there. Okay, now there's a lot more things to learn with the type tool, but this is pretty much what I use every single day, and I think that that's really all you need to know at this stage. Oh, isn't he cute? I've had a couple of requests to go more in depth with the pen tool, so that's what I'm here to do. Now, you might be wondering what this little cute guy is on here for, and we'll get to that in just a second. But the first thing that I want to do is show you the pen tool and what it does, okay? So, right over here, are these two buttons, okay? Two tools. Now if you click on this, you're going to get some more options, but all those options are available if you click Shift, Control, or Alt, okay? And over here you've got two options, and you're going to use those, okay? So we'll get into those in a second. So how does the pen tool work? And what is the point of the pen tool? The pen tool is designed to create shapes, very specific shapes, okay? And it creates shapes by creating these dots, or they're called points or Béziers, or whatever you want to call them. These little dots, and I'm just clicking here, okay? Clicking, clicking, clicking. And let's say I want to make a shape. I'm just going to keep clicking. And then when I finally get to my first Bézier point, I'm just going to click on that, and you see the little circle there. That means this is a closed shape, okay? So if I go over here to the black arrow, I can just select that, and that's a shape. This is not a layer, okay? This is more closely related to Illustrator. If you look over here to our layers panel, you're not going to see a new layer because this is completely independent of all that. In order to see the paths, they're on another panel entirely called the Paths panel, okay? And you have your work path here. You can name it something, random path. And how do you get the Paths panel? Okay, now let's say let's go back to 0 here. Okay, I want to close that, close that, close that. Okay, so now we have our three windows, our famous three windows. How do I get the Paths window? We just go up to Window, Paths, and it appears, okay? And here you have your paths. Now, what I usually do, the way it's usually set up in the configuration of Photoshop, when you open it up, it usually has layers and paths in the same little window here. And you can add as many palettes as you want into a little window. All you have to do, see what I did? You just grab it here at the tab, drag it over, and now they're in the same thing. They're in the same little window here. And everything adapts for that. Okay, so just a real quick overview of the pen tool. I'm going to click on this guy and delete him. All right, so let's try another path. Now, a path wouldn't be all that interesting unless you could make it curvy and make it all kinds of shapes. So how do we do that? Well, I'm going to click here, and we've got our one box there, or one little dot, point, selection point, whatever you want to call it. Now I'm going to put another one, but this time instead of just clicking, I'm going to hold it and I'm going to drag to the right. Or I can hold it and drag to the left, and you see that changes the curve that I've got there, and it creates this really cool curve. Now, one thing that throws people off is this handle that I'm messing with is not part of the graphic. This is just something that we use to control the angle of the curve, okay? So see how that is? You can pull this way over here or pull it way over here, and you start getting these shapes. Now, if we want to make a complete shape out of this, we can click again. I'm going to click down here and drag again. See, and now we can create a shape. This is like a wave kind of, or we can do it over here. You know, this doesn't really look like much of anything, but this is kind of the building block of making shapes. Now we can click on this guy again and finish the shape. And it all ends at a point here because this doesn't have any Bezier handles. Okay, that's what we call these things. That when you select, now I'm going to select on the white arrow, that will allow us to click on these points and move the arrows around. The black one, the black arrow, allows you to select on the entire image, okay? And the white arrow, the white selection tool, will allow you to, sometimes you have to click off of it, click on the line, and then click on the the point, and that will allow you to click on this and start changing it. Now you can move, these don't have to be the same size by any means. You can make the one size small, one size large, this size large, this size small. Oops. Or if you click on Alt, you'll get this little guy. You get the ability to clicking Alt. Oops. Am I clicking Alt? There we go. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, once you detach these two like that, okay, when I had it like this, where these two are connected and they're both moving, this side and this side are both moving, if I click Alt and I click one side, now these two are disconnected, okay? These two don't move together. So you don't need to click anything after you've disconnected them. But if you want to connect them again, then you can hit Alt again, and now they're connected again, okay? So that's what I was doing there. All right, now if you have a shape selected and you go over to the layers, all you have to do is click on the this guy, the new filler adjustment layer, and you can create, if you do solid color, it'll create a shape that is based on whatever path is selected at the time. Okay, so let's do that again. Sorry. We'll go over here. We have our path selected. Okay, now you can hit, if you hit Control, that'll give you the selection like that. It's selected now. Or if you hit, I'll hit Control D to unselect. Or if you hit Shift and you hit that, then you have your shape back again the way it was. Okay, so get in there and just play with this. I mean, I'm not the expert. You know, I've had a love-hate relationship with the pen tool for a long time, so I kind of like, you know, I go back and forth with it. I forget stuff. I've probably had to relearn the pen tool like 20 times, so don't get frustrated. You know, a lot of teachers will just be like, they'll show you everything and they're like, oh, well, you should remember this forever. And you know, the truth is you get into Photoshop and a lot of times it's like, okay, now how did that work? And that's most likely how it's going to be when you start working with it. So just kind of, this is to show you what's possible, and then you know, you can go back and when you need it, you can say, oh, I remember this worked this way. Let me see how that worked again. And you can even come back to this tutorial or just read about it in the notes. Okay, so like I said, you go back to fill layers, and if you want to turn this into just a shape with a fill, the same way that you have these guys over here, you know. You've got a circle that's a shape, that's a vector shape. You know, let me delete that. Go back to paths, shift click, layers, solid color, boom, and now you have that as a vector shape. Okay, I know that's kind of complicated, but you know, practice makes perfect. Why don't you go ahead and try to do that once or twice, and of course now you can move this around and you can still edit this. Okay, so if I click on this guy, I can go in and adjust this, or if I want to change the color, I can just click on it twice and change the color. And this is really, really, really powerful. Okay, especially when you're doing things like logos. So that kind of leads me up to our next topic. You know, I've got a channel called the Dachshund channel, and it's basically just for Dachshund fans. I've had Dachshunds my whole life. I love Dachshunds. But what I wanted to do was to create a logo. And I want to tell you about kind of a secret. I don't know if it's really a secret or it's just something that a lot of logo designers don't talk about, but most logo designers, if they are not artists, what they will do is trace images. And a lot of them won't admit it, but it happens a lot. Okay, so if I wanted to have, let's say for example, I want to have, I'm just going to write out some text here. Okay, I'm going to put the Dachshund, is that right? Dachshund channel. And you know what? That's not a great color, or is it a great? Why is it? You know, for graphic design purposes, why is this not a good color? Because you can't see it. You need contrast. Okay, so let's do some contrast. Put something we like. There we go. That looks pretty good. The Dachshund channel, kind of hard to read, so I'm going to put Ultra, which is a Google font. That wasn't it. Ultra. There we go. Ultra. There we go. All right. This is kind of a popular font. The Dachshund channel, I'll probably make the pretty small. Put it on top. Oops. Okay, the Dachshund, and then maybe make channel another font. I'll do I don't know, Helvetica regular, and then I'll put that underneath, make it small. This isn't, you know, technically related to the pen tool, but hopefully this will give you an idea of the kind of stuff I do. Okay, the Dachshund channel. That looks terrible. Okay, well what we need to do is get our window, well let's just get our panel, character panel, and let's drag this and put the paragraph panel and the character panel together. And we're going to move, we're going to go up to the line spacing. I'm just like scrolling back with my scroll bar on my mouse, make this a little bigger, widen it out so they don't fight with each other. Okay. It's good for all 2 seconds we put into that. Okay, the Dachshund channel. We're going to want to make this go up a little bit. Take this. There we go. The Dachshund channel. Okay, that doesn't look great, but it's starting to, that could be something potentially in the future. Okay, now we want to have this dog. We can't obviously put a dog. First of all, we don't have the rights to this picture, but we can't just sit a dog like that because that's not a logo. A logo has to be a shape. I mean, you know, look at the best logos out there. They're all, you know, a combination of cool shapes. I mean, okay, for example, what's one of the most famous logos out there? The Nike swoosh. Okay, how do you do that? Let's see. There's one point here. There's this, then this. Look at that. There you go. One of the most you know, well-known logos in the world. Done. That's it. I mean, it's a, you know, not quite. I would need to adjust it a little bit, but of course, you know, there we go. Done. All right. So let's go with the Dachshund. What are we going to do? How do we get this into a shape? Well, there's a couple of ways to do it, but the way we're going to do it today is we're just going to trace around this guy with the pen tool. So let's do it. Let's get into it. I'm going to grab the pen tool and I'm going to zoom. I'm going to hit Control plus, and then I'm going to hit the space bar so we get our little hand there. And let's just start going. Now, first of all, you're always going to want to drag a little bit to the right as you're going because you want to, you don't have any straight lines here. Even the straightest parts are a little bit curvy. So I'm going to hit with my my left mouse key, drag, 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 drag. And what you can do is just take any image you can find on Google that has a shape like, you know, that you want to make. And I'm just dragging this along. Now I'm dragging it down, dragging it down, dragging it over to the left, over to the right. And this isn't going to be perfect. I mean, I could spend, you know, half an hour on this, but that's not going to do anybody any good. So I'm just dragging around, dragging around. There we go. Oops. There we go. If you make a mistake, just hit Control Z or Control Alt Z if you need to go back more than one step. Now the only thing we want to do here is to create a, now if you, one thing I'll note, you might notice is when let's say I'm dragging this, you out like that, and I didn't put the point in the right place. Well, you can hit the space button and move where you're at, okay? So if I don't hit the right place, I can go, okay, oops, over here, no, it should be over here. Oops, over here, no, hit the space bar, over here, okay, there we go. There we go, there we go, there we go, just real quick, I'm just dragging it along the line. And you only want to put curves where there are curves. So here, you don't have to have as many little lines, okay? You can just drag, drag, drag. And I'm just dragging it the way the cursor's moving. You can see kind of how it's going. Drag, drag, drag. For the sake of time, little patitas, little perito, ya vamos. Da, da, da. Oops! Control Z. Oops, Control Z. And if I'm doing this too fast for you, just remember this just takes a little bit of practice. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm still not very good at it. All right, well, you see that, let's see, one of these, I believe we're done. Is that, let me go back a couple of steps. Control Alt Z, Control Alt Z. Okay, let's just go back here. And okay, there we got, you see our circle there. Is that even a circle? What is that? Okay, it's kind of a circle. All right, so now we have our shape. So let's go over to the pass. And look at that, we've got our little dog here. All right, we can even get rid of this picture. I'm going to turn off the eyeball and hit the selection key. Oops, I screwed up the nose a little bit. So Control plus, let's just go in there and fix that. I'm going to grab this point and just move it down here. Move it all down here, move it down here. Actually, we can just, delete. I believe, I'm used to working more in Illustrator with the pen tool. So you can do a thing called join. No, that doesn't work. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I just clicked the pen tool and clicked this one and clicked this one, and it filled it in. So now, we can go through and adjust this. I'm going to click this. It looks like the poor puppy is melting a little bit. So let's just bring these in. Bring these in. Change our points. All right, that's kind of okay. I mean, that's not perfect, but let's zoom back. All right, his face is a little, we can always take this guy and just readjust it to his face. So let's zoom in here, Control H just to get rid of that. Paths, there we go, and let's just move this guy in here, move this here. There we go, that's a little better. Give our little guy his nose. And let's see, let's change this a little bit. Okay. And you can also grab the, that's not good. What happened over here? You can also grab the lines. It's not the best way to do it, but like if you want to grab a line, you can grab the line and move that. I don't know if that's taboo or not, but I do it sometimes. It's very hard to control the line if you're grabbing the line like that. All right, now let's see what we've got. Okay, we got our work tool, we got our work path. Let's delete, or at least make that disappear. Okay, Control minus, and here is our dog. Okay, now that looks pretty good for a salchicha. Now, how do we make that into a shape layer? We just did it. Okay, so this is selected. I'm going to hit Shift, Select. Okay. Now, let me show you something else. Like I said, you can always get to different functions whenever you click something with Shift, Control, or Alt. So if instead I click that with Control, you'll see that I get a selection. So that is what you would use if you wanted to create like an alpha channel. Okay? So selections like this are good for alpha channels, but we want to have the shape. I'm going to hit Control D because Control D unselects whatever you have. Okay, so now we have our shape selected, okay? But it's not a selection, it's just the shape is there. This isn't a layer or anything, okay? That's a little bit complicated, but let's say for example, okay, let's follow this the whole way through. If I wanted to create an alpha channel on this dog, okay? And I have this path, and I want to make this path the alpha channel. I'll hit Control, click on it, and then I can go over to the alpha channel and click on that, and now I have an alpha channel that's that shape, that's made from that shape, okay? But that's not what we're trying to do. And if you don't, if one of the common errors that I think you would see from kind of a novice, let's do delete layer mask, logo designer, is let's say we have that, and let's hit Control again, select it, then you can go over here, and if that's selected, you can go to pixels and just fill that in. Okay, so let's make this horrible color, and let's just drag across with the square tool. We're just going to fill all that in. Oops, okay, yeah, I made a mistake. Let me go up to this and do pixels. Sorry. And I'm going to drag over that, and it's going to fill in everything that's selected. If you ever do a fill, if you're ever filling something and there's a selection, it's going to always fill that selection, okay? So let's say, for example, I have a circle selected, and you're going to see the dancing dots. Okay, if I take the the square, it doesn't matter what shape I drag over here. Whatever is in this circle is going to appear. So I'll drag here, and that little part's going to appear in the circle. The only part of this image that you're working with is the part that's selected in the little dancing dots, okay? Or let's say I wanted to draw a shape. I've got a heart shape, okay? Just so you understand. Okay, this part is selected. I'm going to draw that shape over here. Nothing's going to happen. Why? Because the only part of the image that I'm working in is where this is selected. So now I'll draw in there, and just that little part is going to work. Okay? So whatever is selected is what you're working with. So if I go over here and I select, Control click the dog, and I draw a square that's this color, if I draw it over here, nothing happens. Could not use the rectangle because the affected area is empty. It doesn't overlap the selected area. So let's put it here. Just going to appear where the dog is selected, okay? And that's a concept that's important to understand, okay? Of course, if I drag over the whole thing's going to be filled. But this is not a vector. This is a raster. So if we make it small, enter, and then big again, it's going to look like dog poop. Okay, so we want to make sure this is a shape. Okay, so we're going to hit Shift. Instead of hitting Control, we're going to hit Shift this time. And now, see, we've selected the shape. And we go to Solid Color, Fill, and this is going to create a shape for us. All right? And now this is a vector. If we click over here to the selection, we can still edit this. And you can see why that is so powerful. You see? Now we can edit this. And you can always tell if a logo has been done the right way. I mean, maybe even this is kind of a cool thing to do. You know, who knows? But you can really do some powerful stuff as long as you keep things as a vector. Okay, now let's say that that's our logo. That looks more like a logo than, I don't know, whatever. Sometimes, and now, I can make that match. If I just click on that, I can make it match the the words I have here. You know, and actually the way that I have it on my thing is the part is over to the right. Actually, I don't remember. Let me see. Dachshund. I guess I can't do. Oh, here we go. Dachshund. No. That has to be uppercase. So I'm just going to click on the arrow again and do Control Z. Sorry if I'm moving too fast, but you know, I don't want to. Most of this is going to come out of practicing. And you need to get in there and start working with it. You need to be comfortable. I'm always working with my left hand over the keyboard, doing shortcuts. You know, just learn the shortcuts as you know, it takes a little bit of time, but just sit there and hit like A, S, D, F, G, H. Just see what everything does. Just press every button, you know. V is an important one because it always gets you the selection tool. All right. So I think that's about it for the pen tool. Just remember, Bezier handles are your friends. And, you know, just get in there and practice. Like everything in Photoshop, I've taken literally almost every single Photoshop, every class that I could possibly take. And it's great. You know, you can sit there, and I'm the kind of guy, I like to watch them. I don't like to actually do the work while I'm there. You know, because I like to kind of prop myself up and lay back, and I'll watch everything because I want to know what's possible. You know, you want to watch stuff like, you know, go to YouTube, and you can go to lynda.com, and you can go to all these other places, and there's a lot of great instructors who will go through really, really in-depth classes on Photoshop. And what I usually do is I'll just watch everything because I want to know kind of how everything works. And then I'll forget it, but some part of my head will remember, hey, I know that you can do this in Photoshop. I don't remember exactly how it works, but let me go back now and, you know, watch something on YouTube or watch my my class or whatever, and then you remember how it all works, you know. But just get in there and practice. All right, guys. Thanks for taking this. You know, I hope this has been helpful, and I'll see you in the next class.